viewers, this is Stephius here again, but in a different game this time. This is Space Engineers. I've played this for quite a while now, and I figured that it's about time that I do a little bit of media with it now that I have improved specifications. So, today I think I am going to teach the very basics of small ship design and essentially how things just go together. Also just a few build tips here and there, and hopefully the majority of this video is just going to be a time-lapse of the vehicle being made, and I'll provide some helpful voiceovers for what the vehicle is actually how it's going to be turning out. But first build tip before we get started is make sure that you take advantage of all 9 toolbar tabs that you can have for your I'd like to call it your palette. We've got all of our essential blocks, all of our structural blocks in tabs 1 and 2. 3 is for all of the window blocks. 4 is where you start getting into utility and control, essential storage such as power. 5 is for constructors and conveyors, and 6 for O2 and hydrogen related items. I don't have my tab set up for thrusters just yet because we're not going to get there for right now. We will in a little bit. But for now that we have all of this, next thing we want to take into account is the components for ships, such as cockpits and let's say, for example, the oxygen tanks for small ships, because it looks beautiful. All of these blocks have set shapes, and these set shapes, you can't change them. You can't change how they look. So when building a ship, you want to keep in mind that your structural blocks are not truthfully going to make the structure of the ship unless you are going for that route. Instead, you want your ship's structure to bend towards the shape of the components, especially because these components are going to be making the majority of your aesthetic features on your ships. That will go into heavier detail with doing things like greebling and adding on unneeded components such as the upgrade modules, such as, for example, the yield module. And we can't add them to small ships, but you would get the idea. You would get the idea. So without further ado, I guess I would start with the time-lapse bit. So first we're going to start with the essentials of our small craft. That is going to involve the oxygen storage, the fuel storage, the cargo storage, and the plumbing for all of that. So first you see there we attached our oxygen tank, and we offset it from the center of the cockpit. This is going to allow us to tuck some things back behind the cockpit, as you can see there with the small reactor. And then down underneath here you see we're still in a good range, we can still attach it sin-free. So anyways, now we're going to attach our medium container. Medium containers because large containers are too big, and the small containers are just overrated. So make sure that the small connectors are all facing downwards, so that way we can all connect it with one seamless unit using, as you can see here, these small conveyors. The small conveyors, we can actually connect them, the front one to the oxygen tank, and then we can connect the other part, the oxygen tank here, to the medium container. Just like this. Yeah. Just like that. So now we actually have another point on the back of the container where we can attach our hydrogen tank. As we can see here, quite large. It's going to take up a majority of our small ship's space. Just go ahead and attach it there. Now that we have that done, we pretty much have all of the plumbing done for our ship. And pretty much, yeah. Now that I think about it, I think I'm actually going to place it 1 or 2 blocks offset along with the oxygen tank, so that way we still keep it balanced. We don't want it to be too low on one part and then too high on another part. We just want it to be the same way. So there we go, I'm attaching a block there so we can place it right, and there we go. Now we should be able to attach these parts without too much extrusion from the conveyors themselves. Just like this. Okay, and that part should be done. Now we can do a little bit more. We have to figure out where we're going to put our connectors. Without a connector, the ship is pretty much useless. We wouldn't be able to refuel or anything. So I believe I want to put it down on the bottom over here, just like this. Remove these, and that'll allow us to attach it on this part here. Might as well just detach that one too for redundancy's sake. We can attach the conveyors on both sides now, and that should keep it going. In case one of the connectors gets disconnected, we can keep it running. And now that I think about it, we're going to move this back up just a little bit. Just like that. Might as well. It'll also help with the aesthetics later on. Just like this. Now for the final bits, I attached the conveyor on the front bottom there to attach some small reactors. They will provide enough power for this small ship that I intend there to not be much power required. But yeah, pretty much just the small reactors when we attach them there, and voila, we have power. And that is everything that is required. Now on for the next components. So now the next part of this build is going to be the control modules for the ship. That's going to involve the directional thrusters and the gyroscopes. Fortunately, Space Engineers doesn't make you worry about wings, unlike Kerbal Space Program. So as you can see here, we're going to just put our two gyroscopes right behind the cockpit. That's a really good spot to tuck them away and sort of hide them. It also makes a little bit of sense on where you would actually put them, but we're not going to worry about that. This is Space Engineers, not real life. So anyways, now we're going to worry about where we're going to put our thrusters, and we're also going to worry about what kind of power we're going to use. Now, per se, if we were going to use ion engines, then we would need batteries, and we would need a bigger reactor, so that way we can generate electricity quicker and recharge the batteries quicker. I don't believe this is going to involve ion thrusters. I believe this is just going to use hydrogen. Much easier, in my opinion, at least much easier. I haven't used ion engines in quite a long time, and they're quite weak nowadays. They used to be the main mode of transportation. So now we're just going to use the conveyor blocks, and we're going to, dang it, just a minute, let me replace that. So now we're going to take our conveyor blocks and we're going to connect them to the hydrogen tank. We have to connect them directly to the. I should probably have symmetry on. Yes, that will be greatly helpful. So we're going to connect our hydrogen thrusters directly to our fuel tank. I don't believe they'll work if they are not directly connected. So let's go ahead and bring a line directly to the front of the spacecraft so we can attach our retro thrusters. That's too far apart. We need to attach them a little bit closer. So just make sure that your pipes are hugging your components, and that will save you plenty of room, and that will allow you to do as much as you want for aesthetics. So let's just bring our conveyors down underneath the cockpit here. And then we can bring the conveyors forward to where we want our thrusters to be. I think I'd want them to be a little bit further than just the cockpit. So here we go, just small hydrogen thrusters, and there we go. First 2 thrusters, and I believe that's all the thrusters we're going to need for the retro thrusters. Now we need to place our ventral thrusters and our port starboard side thrusters, and then our forward thrusters, and I do this all the time. I'm sure plenty of you do as well. Perfectly fine. We can just completely rebuild that, just don't mind me. So, as I was saying about that, we just attached our port and starboard maneuvering thrusters. Now we need to place our ventral thrusters. Those are just going to be extended from these. We want them to be a little bit lower because they need to be towards the outside of our spacecraft. And we want our spacecraft to be a little bit more structural, you know. We also don't want the thrusters to be too close to the very bottom, because if they are too close to the very bottom and they're close to where the connectors are, if a world that you spawn your ship in has thruster damage, you could risk damaging the connectors and possibly a landing pad beneath. So just go ahead and make sure that your thrusters are sometimes sunk in a little bit. We'll see. So now we have our bottom thrusters, and we need to attach our top thrusters, and that's just going to be as simple as connecting some conveyors about the same position on the top part as it is on the bottom, just as so, and then attaching our hydrogen thrusters on the top bit, just about there. And now for the easiest of all of them, by far the easiest, is going to be attaching the forward thrusters. We're just going to attach one big boy right in the back, just like this. Kabam. And that is the bare bones of this entire vehicle. On to the next part. that is the rest of it. Camouflage is done, weapons are on, and everything else is good. This vehicle is now complete. This has been Sevis, and until the next tutorial, I'll see you there.